right. Well, it is straight up 12 o'clock. Bob, so you can get started whenever you want. Everyone,
Okay.
welcome. We do try to start on time. We're trying to, get over this realtors start late thing, and we try to start on time. So we're encouraging people to show up on time. So we do have um, Bob Rand and Virgil Flores today. And Bob, I'll let you take it.
Okay, thank you and very much. And I will go for like 45 minutes in that range, or more or less, whatever, but about that. And if you ever have any questions that are disclosure related, I will be emailing to Amy a set of notes that has my contact information. And you can call me anytime, email me anytime, no cost at all. I'll give you my opinion. This is my 33rd year consecutively talking about this subject. I don't know everything, but I might be able to help you. So I'll get going here. So it's a big topic throughout California, and it does vary in different parts of the state. But the overview is actually approaching 90% of lawsuits against residential agents are about disclosure issues. They're not about property lines or whatever, or the roof leaks. It's about generically red flag disclosure issues. So it's a big topic. I always like to, when I start out, by the way, I always like to, if you've ever seen Gov Hutchison, or if you haven't ever seen him and he's with Carr, he knows more about real estate than anybody I've ever met. So if he's ever passing through town, Gov Hutchison, go see him. And I do not sell anything. I don't charge anything to the real estate firm. So I'm very graciously sponsored by service providers. And Choice Home Warranty is the first one. And you got to unmute. And then we'll hear from Karen, because I saw her wave. Go right
That's
ahead.
right. Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. I forgot my Cinco de Mayo hat, but I do have it in the car. So I hope you all have a great day. Some of you I've met, some of you I haven't met. So I know because some of you send your home warranty orders already through Choice Home Warranty, and I truly appreciate that. So you might have seen this around your office. But that is who we are. And I am the account executive for Solano County. So if I have not personally met you, I am only one person. So it is hard to be everywhere. But I want to say that I do give a lot of love to both my agents and your clients, because it's super important for home warranties to educate your clients, because sometimes you have a different, everybody understands a home warranty differently. So one of the things that we're doing differently is educating your client. So if you want some love and you want us to give your clients some love, try me out. And I do reach out to your client a couple of days after the close of escrow to just explain the process on how the home warranty works. And I think that's super important on Bob's topic of red flags and all that good stuff. So that's me. If you need me,
Okay.
Bob will have my info, and it's shareable on the screen. So feel free to text or call.
Okay. Thanks very much, Karen.
Yeah.
And our other sponsor, Legal Services of America, Virgil's here. And go right ahead, Virgil.
Thank you, Mr. Brand. It's such a great pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Virgil Flores. I own Legal Services of America. We're dedicated to preventing lawsuits against realtors. We know it's an important job because realtors are the second most sued industry in California, second only to doctors. So what we decided to do was to follow the residential purchase agreement and provide your buyers and sellers with lifetime mediation forever. For as long as that transaction exists, if there's a problem, you're not going to have to spend your time or your money on expensive attorneys or allow your frivolous lawsuit to make it to your E&O policy, because we're here to cover all of those services, including providing your buyers and sellers with unlimited legal advice to help close your transaction. All these services are paid for by the buyer or seller. There's no cost to you or your agents. Please call on me at any time. I'd be happy to come to your next office meeting. Thank you, Mr. Brand.
Thank you, Virgil. Wonderful service. I hear nothing but good things about it. So thank you. All right. Just going to go through a bunch of slides here and kind of narrate them. On the visual inspection, this is the form that we're all familiar with, the AVID. A question that comes up every now and then is when you're doing and it's not a professional home inspection, it's a limited inspection, part of your job, but not to the extent of like a professional home inspector. But even though it does say visual, question that comes up every now and then, what if it's not visual? The floors are uneven and upstairs hallway, and you can tell, but you can't really see it. So is the agent's inspection limited only to visual? Actually, no, even though that's what the form says. So it's really interpreted generally in the California courtroom as any sensory perception, not just whether you can see it. And another example, there's a very strong odor in the home. I'll get into maybe how to disclose that. You're not sure what it is. And even if you knew what it was, you don't want to identify it in print because you may be wrong. But it's really, we think of it as visual, but it's what you hear, what you see, smell, and that sort of thing. Sense of balance on a hallway, is it curved or whatever. And you may not be able to tell by looking at it, but when you walk on it, you can. A defect is like obviously something wrong, like a broken window, for example. It just doesn't work or it's been messed around with or something. The red flag is a different thing, like that stain. Let's say um, the prospective buyers are at this property and they see that and their agent is there, but the sellers aren't home, and maybe the listing agent's not even there, which doesn't happen often. But we really don't know at first glance what that is. We know it's a stain. We don't want to call it a water stain. They may have a previous owner may have stored white wine up there, and a bottle blew up, whatever. It could be a rodent problem. So since we don't know what it is, but we still want to make a disclosure, just something like stain noted, family room ceiling, and maybe above the window, or identify it some way. Not big, not small, not water stain, just discoloration or stain. Really keep it generically. And a lot of that stuff is in the notes that you'll be getting. Always challenges ahead. I'll mention just a couple of them. Let's say you're doing your AVID thing and you're almost done. You're in let's say this is the living room, and it's like, everything looks fine. I've had a couple of comments as I've walked around. I'm going to get them on the AVID, but there's nothing to say here. And so what some agents do is they just want to write something down to kind of prove they were in the room. So, and I look at tons of AVIDs through the years, and a very common one, not correct, but common, is like ceiling fan noted. Well, that's not a defect or a red flag. It's inventory. Whether it's staying with the home or not, that's got nothing to do with it. When we're doing like our app, we're looking for things that look like they're actual defects, like a broken window, or a red flag, like a stain. So don't go to mentioning inventory or things that are too minor. If the house is infested with spider webs, that's different. But if you go into a room, like a bedroom, it's squeaky clean, got nothing to disclose. Up in the corner, you see a spider web. I don't mean an infestation, just a spider web. It doesn't rise to the level of disclosure. So we don't want to, or better not to mention it. So the expression "nothing noted," again, having been at this for 3 decades, I've never seen it not work. It doesn't mean that there's nothing wrong in the living room. It means that within my standard of care as a real estate licensee in California, I just haven't observed anything that rises to the level of a necessary disclosure. So nothing noted is in my opinion, a great thing to write down when you've, adequately looked around. There's just nothing to say. What do you do though when the home is in really great shape and every comment that you make is, you're looking at or anybody's looking at the avenue, nothing noted, nothing noted, nothing noted. Well, short of breaking something to have it to write down, here in California, and it varies in what part of California, but like a lot of homes, more Southern California than Northern, stucco siding. I had mentioned earlier, I live in San Diego. Homes that cost $8 million are stucco sided. I mean, that's just how it's done. Brick either for chimney or accents, and then on the right, like concrete or cement, driveways, walkways, and that sort of thing. It is virtually impossible to go to any property and find these surfaces with no cracks whatsoever. Now, the cracks are really normal and to be expected and usually not a problem. But if you're just you just can't find anything to say and you want to kind of prove that you were there, this works out well. Some cracks noted at exterior siding, backyard patio, whatever. And the prospective buyer goes out in the backyard, sees the patio, and they go, well, I don't care about that. It's good to write something down when you can't find anything. I don't mean for every room, but that works well to kind of just substantiate that you were actually there in that part of the house. And a part of one of our wonderful forms that a lot of agents don't use is the other observed or known conditions not specified above. So when you're filling out like the transfer disclosure statement or anything related to disclosure, if it's got a lot of stuff in there, then it's got a lot of stuff. But if it's completely blank, there's just nothing to find. That's actually, and you've done your job adequately looking, that's sort of a happy problem, and not a very good chance that there's going to be litigation. But it is good to make some comments just to kind of prove that you were there. And I'll give you examples in the notes that you'll be getting. Okay, stating the obvious, here are some examples of how far our society has gone in informing consumers of what's there. You know, all the ice I've seen is frozen. I didn't know that they needed to remind me that this ice is frozen. I love this one. Steps. I would have made a pretty good guess on that too. And I love this on pizza boxes. Open box before eating before eating pizza. Now, the reason why this wording is there on the pizza box and the other examples is because of litigation. I don't know how this works. Somebody didn't open it and ingested cardboard, but they all come about from litigation. And so companies and their attorneys are afraid of that or fearful of it or concerned. And so they have these wild disclosures. And real estate in California is not too different from that. Those are exaggerations, although they're real. But we have to kind of reach a happy medium. So I'll get into some examples of that as we go along. So anyway, let's start a little series of slides here. Let's say you are representing the buyers and they're looking at this home, and obviously there's a school across the street. Some agents, not many, but some, think it's so obvious that there's a school there or like they don't have Kmart anymore, like Target or something, that they don't have to disclose it. But we really do, because buyers, a defense that works almost every time if they have a clever attorney is, we fell in love with this house. We were so mesmerized by it. We blocked out everything else out. And then we move in and find out, my gosh, we're across the street from a school and it's gridlock in the morning drop off, gridlock on picking up the kids, sporting events, and all that stuff. So even though something seems incredibly obvious, we don't have to say a lot about it, but just to mention that it's there. Like there is a school across the street from this property, period. Not a list of what problems may occur, like gridlock and other things. Anything that's going to happen or occur because you're living close to a school is in that disclosure by simply mentioning that it's there without any details. Where was I here? This would be LA area, 10 freeway, like downtown San Diego's to our right about a mile. Um, Anybody who's buying this home would probably know that there's a major freeway there. And some agents involved in a transaction with a property like this don't make a disclosure because it's like, well, who can miss it? Well, we don't have to write a paragraph on it. But no matter how obvious something is, we want to at least mention it, I mean, in writing and disclosure. Because if a buyer has a clever attorney, and a lot of them are very clever in a not so great way, most of them are clever in a good way, um, they will come up with just about anything where the buyers say, well, we were so in love with the house, we didn't notice that this freeway was there and it's noisy and there's people hanging out at the on-ramp and nobody told us about it. That kind of thing goes on in court all the time. So let's say I was personally involved in that property. I would just say that there is a freeway adjacent to the property in a disclosure. As simple as that is, nothing like flat tires blow off the freeway or or whatever, or people hang around. Just there's a freeway adjacent to the property. This is a shopping center in an area where I live in Southern California, and I've been involved in it on legal issues. Nice homes are like view homes, and they're, kind of expensive because there is a great view. And the shopping center has, I think you think I would know, 4 or 5 buildings. Like there's a Target, kind of the anchor store to our left, and then a couple of other buildings. And then on the right, there's a big supermarket or something. And so some agents would not disclose that. Let's say they're representing the buyers, could be the sellers, but the buyers. And, the agents walking around the backyard, inside the house, outside, upstairs, downstairs, and in the backyard. Oh, there's the Target that I like to shop at. Sometimes these things are not disclosed because the real estate agent thinks it, again, like before, it's so obvious, I don't really have to mention it, but we really do. What we will have to be careful of is that we don't mention it in a restricted way. Like, for example, there is a shopping center behind this property. And by the way, period, that's an ideal disclosure. Just shopping center located behind this property. We don't want to do the details like Target gets deliveries, like let's say the house is behind the Target. Target gets deliveries, but they close at 9 o'clock. That was actually part of a lawsuit. That's what the agent wrote down. I forget which side, but in the transaction. And it's true, Target closes at 9, but they have deliveries 24 hours a day. They never stop, and they're very loud. And people right behind it should have been told about it. That might make a difference in their decision. So anyway, I'll give you other examples of disclosing the obvious, but the answer is, do I really need to mention this? You don't have to write a paragraph on it, but just to mention that something's there. Like there's a fire station next door to the property or a half a block away where they're going to, hear the sirens or something like that. No detail of what may bother them, just that it's there. And then the rest takes care of itself. Okay. Well, disclosing something near the property, just to kind of summarize that, disclose what is there, never details of what may bother somebody like a buyer about what's there, because you make it's near a shopping center and I've got 5 things that might bother a buyer. Well, what might bother you or me may not bother somebody else and all that. So just disclosing that it is there is all there should be, because it may bother them, it may not, I don't know, but they do need to know or be told beyond their sight what's there, and that can help in litigation prevention. So like there's a freeway near the house, a school is close to this property, better not to make a list. And by the way, a school that's close to this property takes care of the gridlock in the morning, the gridlock and pickup time in the afternoon, sporting events in the recess, they still use that term, area, whatever it is, school dances. It's all in that disclosure. A school is close to this property. Any objection somebody could have is answered there. Well, you were told, like a buyer, you were told that there's a school there. You may have blanked out on it because you fell in love with this house and you blanked everything else out, but it's better to keep it simple. Better not to make a list of specifics. And so I might touch on that again. Let's go to rough draft to final disclosure. This is, let me back up this technique. Well, disclosure techniques don't cost anything. Don't have to download an app, and they usually don't take very long. So let's say I'm in the kitchen, and we'll start out with wording that's common, but not a good idea. 2 small black mold stains noted. Well, the identification of mold is outside of our standard of care. We don't want to mention 2 because maybe there's something we're missing. And this was actually a litigation photo. If you look at the top circular stain, the upper left corner, the agent had mentioned there are 2 stains. And in court, the judge approved this. The upper left, that little dot, was a separate stain. So it's like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding. Just stains noted. So we get 2 small black mold stains. So let's just clean it up. No numbers, just no adjectives really. Small, no colors. There is no way in the world we would ever want to write the word mold down. So we're left with a proper, adequate disclosure, about as litigation proof as you can get, because when we add extra details, they can be argued about. So if I was buying a home and I was in the kitchen and I saw those stains, I would be concerned because, what's going on in here? We've all heard of the horror stories where buyers move in, kitchen's got big water and mold problems. They have to move out for 3 months or something like that. But this will do it. Stains noted. That's all that was required. And when we get into too many other words and phrases, it can lead to some problems. Okay, let's see. Here we have a golf course, of course. A golf course, yeah, of course. Some agents, they're involved with, say, the property kind of in the middle because that was the subject of litigation. And they think, again, the proximity to, having a golf course in your backyard, it's an insult to the buyer's intelligence to mention it, but we still need to, because buyers can say, as I kind of alluded to earlier, we were so thrilled with this property, we just kind of blanked everything out. So let's say you have the listing and the seller says, yeah, there's the golf course, it's a great view, but one or two golf balls a week hit the house. Well, that's too specific. So we go with golf balls. Let me back up a little bit. Golf balls occasionally hit the house. That's harder to argue. Let me just back up again. One or two, if you have a really picky buyer and they collect them on their backyard patio or grass or whatever, and they're averaging 4 every day or whatever it is, they actually have a case, believe it or not. So golf balls occasionally hit the house it's not divinely inspired, but it's much better than other disclosures that I had given you examples of. It's more generic and harder to pin down, but it is letting a buyer who's mesmerized by the house and isn't even thinking about it, it is letting them know that this does happen. So that would be an example. Okay, a little story here. There was a married couple. This is Orange County, I think, or so. I don't know where it is. But married couple, no kids. They both had worked out of the home. And so they told their agent, we would like a home at the end of a cul-de-sac because there won't be traffic going by, and in a quiet area because we both have offices and work in the house that we live in. And this is the one that they bought. So it kind of fits the description when you look at it. But if you notice, there's a hedge to the left. You can see it more plainly. And I guess nobody looked behind it. But behind it is a freeway. And now the hedge there is a secondary one. The other one's, farther back that we can't see. But it's Interstate 5. I mean, it's right there. You just look over there, the fence or the whatever shrubs, and it's right there. So got to be careful. So let's look at this sort of like tentative disclosure, because especially the agent, at least representing the buyers, is keenly aware of what kind of home they want and what they don't want. So we'll start with a rough draft. Traffic noise noted from adjacent freeway during morning and afternoon rush hour periods. Well, let me just back up. We can take those bottom 3 lines there because there may be an argument. It's not just the afternoon, morning also, or it's all day long. But if you take it out, there's no argument. Traffic noise noted from adjacent freeway. That's all. That takes care of it. And that kind of, if you have buyers that might end up suing over noise, cannot be penetrated in court. Works. I mean, it's just a statement that's what's there without a list of details, because no list is ever long enough, especially in the hands of a clever attorney. Okay. Yeah, this is a kind of a interesting concept here. If you have representing buyers and you're driving them around looking at properties, it's a good idea to, especially buyers that haven't been in the market lately, or they're just like they talk a lot or they're very excited, caution them before entering a property about what to say and what not to say. Depending on how high tech somebody is. In many homes, there are these devices, cameras and audio equipment, where anybody that says anything in that house 24 hours a day can be recorded, and sometimes on video. And a lot of buyers, especially if they're really excited about, maybe this may be the home for us, don't even think about it. and let's say it's husband and wife buyers are talking back and forth, and they say something disparaging about the home or something that might offend the sellers who are sensitive to it. Well, often the sellers, when they get home from work or whatever, they listen and they watch especially when their home's on the market. Who said what? What did they say? And if they're insulted or offended, it increases the chance of litigation if that buyer is going to be doing the deal with them. So just letting them know, letting your prospective buyers know, I'm going to go in this home, and you'll say this out in the yard or in the car. There's a lot of high-tech audio and video equipment. Some homeowners, some sellers will watch you, where you were, and they have a recording of it. So if you have anything about the property that's disparaging that may offend them or they might find insulting, don't say it. Wait till we're in the car and actually away from the property if you want to say it. Good to be reminded of that. A lot of buyers, because they're all excited about the house, forget that what they say and do will be watched and listened to by the people that own the house. It's a good thing to caution them. Okay, a couple of things about E&O insurance. I'm going to talk about home inspectors for a moment. Um, because we live in California, we might think, if you were asked, do home inspectors need a license? As of last count, 44 states state license home inspectors. California does not, and a few other states. It's completely uncontrolled, so to speak. And so proof of E&O insurance, if you're bringing in or your client's bringing in a home inspector, it's very important that they have E&O coverage. And it should be, even though they're out in the field at the house, by cell phone or other methods to prove that they have E&O insurance. It's a good thing to ask for. It's a good thing for your clients if they're buyers to ask for it. It should be immediately available. If it's not, there's usually something wrong. So the state of California does not license home inspectors. There's no license available. Anybody can call themselves that and be in business. So there's no state control, there's no federal control here. It's good to look for professional certifications. You don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's the main point here is that if you're representing the buyer, and especially if they're out of town and they're traveling and they're going back home, and would you take care of the home inspection for us or getting it ordered? It's always better, and I know there's some exceptions, but it's always better when it is the buyers who select the home inspector. You maybe have a lot of agents have a sheet of paper that have got, depending on how many inspectors are in there, let's say 12 home inspectors with the caveat at the bottom. This is not a complete list. There's others available that you can look into, but it's very important that they choose the home inspector, assuming they're going to have an inspection done. They make the call. It's great if they can be there, but even if not, if it's the buyers who are choosing the home inspector, it does reduce the liability of the real estate agent. It doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces it. And by the way, speaking of the AVID, it's a very good idea. It kind of depends on what side of the deal you're on, but if you're got the listing, you have most of the time, unfettered access to the property. They're your client. But if you're representing the buyers, maybe they don't, it's you're the agent representing the buyers. The seller doesn't want them there looking around doing their own agent limited home inspection. But here's a tip: never complete the AVID during the home inspection, because if you have the buyers and the home inspector is going to be there and you're there too, which is a good idea, it's better to sit it out. Don't follow the guy around, because home inspectors have a totally different standard of care. And I'll give you an example. I think coming up, there could be a painting on the wall in the master bedroom. And if you're there doing your AVID thing by yourself, or even if the sellers are home, you would not remove that painting or look behind it. You don't have to. You don't, depending on part of the state, there's a little variance in this. You don't have to look under sinks. There's some variance on that, again, depending in terms of traditions in different areas. But you're really restricted on what you can do. You don't move things out of the way. If the closet is a real mess, you don't clear clothes out of the way. You're just like unable to inspect due to extensive personal belongings or something like that. So let's say this is a master bedroom and you can get in before your client, the buyers do. That can be arranged. The only thing, if I was the agent there and I was going through representing the buyers not with me, from this picture, I'd have nothing to say. Look, it looks okay. But if the buyers are there with you and they're walking around the house with the home inspector, they're following him around, he's probably going to take that painting off the wall, just see what's behind it. And let's say that's what is seen. Well, that doesn't look good, of course. By the way, when I'm there by myself and I don't move that painting, I don't look behind things, the liability doesn't go away or the potential negativity doesn't go away. It's just that my role in it is protected. Because why didn't you disclose that when you were there by yourself doing your visual inspection? It was right behind the painting. Perfect defense. I don't move things out of the way. Ideal defense. I've seen it work many times. It's true. It's the right thing to do. But now the home inspector's there, my buyers are there, and I'm tagging along. Never a good idea. And the home inspector takes the painting off the wall, and then everything changes. It's got to be disclosed carefully. It's good that it does get disclosed, but liability is limited when you have no obligation to disclose something that you can't see as a real estate licensee because you're not moving anything out of the way. It still may need to be dealt with, but it just protects your liability. So to summarize that part of it, always complete the AVID prior to the home inspection if it's possible. I know sometimes it isn't, but if you can, good idea. If the sellers or their agents say, hey, they're doing a lot of repairs, we don't want anybody in, they're going to fix some things before the buyers come and see the home or have their home inspector. Usually those projects never get done because the move out date is approaching and it just doesn't happen. So when the home inspection is going to take place and you are on the buyer side, it's a great idea to attend it with your buyers, but don't follow anybody around. Preferably, you've already done your visual inspection. Sometimes you haven't, but it's not a good idea to do it at the same time when the home inspector is there with your buyers, because again, they take things off the wall and we don't. They just do a lot of things. It's much more thorough, and we want to stay in our lane, in our standard of care. So it still may need to be dealt with, but we want to limit our liability. Okay. Oh, here's a little story about this house here. This is in La Jolla, where there's a lot of hills and valleys, San Diego. And it's kind of an interesting case. I'll boil it down to something brief. The buyer's agent did her inspection and she wrote down multiple cracks noted, suggest the client obtain the services of a structural engineer. Well, that sounds pretty good. But there's either a structural problem, because from the pictures I'll show you, but it could be something else. It could be a soils problem. And if it is a soils problem, and the agent said, get a structural engineer, not good for the agent. And there's a better way to handle it as we'll look at here. So let's say a structural engineer is called in, regardless of who's paying for it or all that. And the structural engineer says, no, it looks fine. It's on a cliff and all that and steep downhill, but looking around, I don't see any structural concerns. This is what happened actually during escrow. The street in front just caved in, and buyers were already in, and this caved in about a week after they moved in. So and another picture of it here, incredible. And I took those pictures. I was there. It's amazing to see. So let's revisit this. Multiple cracks noted, suggests that the client obtain the services of a structural engineer. Well, it was determined that there was no problem with the house. There's no structural problem. The problem was it was a soils issue, completely not connected to the home other than the home was physically there. But there was nothing wrong with the house. It was the soil it was sitting on. So I don't know. You see cracks like that, a structural issue, soils. Something else I don't know, I don't need to know. And I don't want to make a recommendation for a particular specialty when it may not be that specialist that's needed. So this, again, not divinely inspired, but much better. Multiple cracks noted suggest that the client, this would be the buyer, obtain the services of a qualified specialist. Now, they may say, well, who do I get? But this is what is in writing. This is what will be up on the big screen in a courtroom, not the chit chat back and forth. So the writing has to be just right. You're not telling them where to go. How would you know? You know, if I was involved in that, I would know what specialists they need. I can't recommend a particular specialty. So we have to be careful. So we'll change it from qualified specialist and to sum this up, for every transaction, it's always a good idea to recommend that they have a professional home inspection done. Again, not licensed home inspector. They should have E&O insurance. That's very easy for them to get, and it's also very inexpensive as well. On rare occasions, it's good to carefully note the issue that's of concern and recommend that they obtain the services of those are magic words, qualified specialist. Let me back up. That is ideal. There may be verbal back, well, like, who do I get? You said qualified, and that's fine. But what shows up in court and what is in the printed word on the form is the most important. We have to be careful what we say too, but that's not perfect wording. There's other options, but it's ideal. Let me skip the story on that. Okay, that's it for that story. But I drove by this home about a month ago and I stopped and I had to take a picture of it. I thought, my gosh, who would be in the back bedroom? I don't know. I don't think I would. Give up. I don't know if it's on the market and you're involved. So home inspectors, again, state of California does not license them. Look for professional certifications. I don't want to go too heavy on this, but there's organizations. I'll put those in the notes that you'll be able to refer to. Yeah, they can be a member of, and that's a good way of qualifying them. But it's still not licensed. Let's say we just have a little bit more time. I'm not going to do the whole story here. It'd take too long, but this is a condo development in Southern California. And when it was being built, I took these pictures myself. I climbed over a fence to get them. All these problems were happening. And when all the remedial stuff was done, the sellers, the contractor, made no mention of them. And then, of course, I didn't share my pictures with anybody, my photos, but it kind of backfired. This house just slid down the hill. So you never know what's going to happen. So substantial soils and structural issues occurred in this neighborhood in whatever year. During construction, an overview by the builder has been provided to the buyer. Buyers may choose to conduct their own view of this matter. Anyway, I'll have something in the notes about that will clarify it. You're not going to do that very often. Here, this is just more of a fun. Can anybody identify the red flag in this sink? Real sink. There really was an electrical outlet in it. It's just hard to believe. Okay, packed rat room. You're doing your visual inspection thing, limited as an agent, and you open up a door and you go, your first thought is, well, there's just too much stuff in the way. Well, if there's too much stuff in the way, we want to disclaim the room. And we never know if when all that stuff is taken out, this is a good example of what we want to say and not want to say, may not want to say. If it was just me and I was looking at it, I'd say it looks like mold, but I would never say that out loud in a transaction to a buyer. It's discoloration. But when you walk in a room and that's what it looks like, first thought should be, it's not fair to me to be responsible for what I can't see. And so it's a good idea to disclaim that room. Extensive personal belongings prevented a visual inspection of the north end bedroom or wherever it is. Now, if you're with the buyers, you're representing the buyers, they really want you to look at it. This is a good thing to write down. Say, I'm excluding it. It's too much stuff in the way. And then if requested, the sellers might clean it out and then you can proceed. But as it is there, it's better to disclaim it entirely. And I have a story behind that. So extensive personal belongings preventative visual inspection of this area. It could be the exterior of a home where there's a lot of shrubbery on say you're looking at the house, the left side, and you cannot see that side of the house, the whatever it's made of. It's just good to have this kind of in your dialogue or disclosure and written extensive personal belongings preventative visual inspection of the left and right side of this property exterior. It just exclude it. And then don't forget about the home's exterior again, something like this. You know, years ago, I might have mentioned this, my 33rd year doing this. Nobody was suing over something like this. It's shrubbery. And if there was a problem with the exterior of the home that let's say the buyer's agent couldn't see, the buyer's agent wouldn't get into any difficulty. But it's just not that way now. If there's a problem that you can't see, it's not fair to you to be brought into court. So just a disclaimer, like extensive personal, here it is, extensive vegetation debris, preventative visual inspection of portions of the house exterior. I have seen wording like that because it was never attended to. Everybody's in a hurry, but nothing was done. Buyers move in, and there's a problem in that area that could not be seen. And a disclosure like that, let's say representing the buyers, it could be either side, saves the day for them. No problems result. If it looks like this, I think I would turn around and go back home or back to the office or give up. Yeah, that's a real place, by the way. I'm just going to go for a few more minutes. Let me don't get dizzy here. Here's just a good exercise of taking a rough draft disclosure that we maybe have written out, or it's on our computer or something, and turn it into a final one. It doesn't cost anything. You don't have to download an app. So again, we have stains like that. I know we looked at this earlier, but again, it deserves an emphasis. 2 small black mold stains noted. That's what I'd probably say, off the record, to my friends if I was in their home, but nothing's for sale here. 2 small black mold, and you end up with stains noted, ideal disclosure, rough draft to final. And by the way, in supermarkets, this has been like a study I read about recently. Like in Southern California, where I live, there's 2 major supermarkets, and there have been problems in the express lane where it's usually guys involved. No surprise, not women, but it says 15 items or fewer, and somebody is behind the customer that's in front of them, and they count them, and they say, there's 21 things here, and that says 15 items or fewer. Now, usually nothing happens, but look at the improvement here. Another supermarket, about 15 items. The guy says, well, you don't have 15, you have 18. Oh, look at the sign. It says about. 18 is about 15. It just all goes away. Now, that's a supermarket application, but we do that also in real estate. And let me see here. Yeah, let me mention this couple other things, and I'll be done in about 5 minutes or less. Last page of the TDS. Well, I'm sorry, get dizzy here. So check, this is my opinion, do what office policy is, but this is the most common, popular way to do it, but make sure you follow the rules there. Check off only the top box, see attached. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but see attached visual inspection disclosure form rather than writing your disclosures in section 3 and 4 and so forth. It's better just to, go to where you have more room to write. Usually better not to write anything in the 4 lines because they're being referred to another document. Got to have your name and date there, and that sort of thing, and that's important. And this was an interesting case here. Old guy. Did I ever show that? I'm not sure if I showed that picture, but it's a nice home, and elderly man, he was like 93, bought it, had some friends over, and they said, why did it bother you to buy a house that's next to a cemetery? He goes, Well, all he could see because of his vision was this. He said, no, it's just a nice park. Well, anyway, even something like cemetery adjacent to property actually is a disclosure, believe it or not. And let me wrap up with, let me find something that's really short. Don't get dizzy here. Um, Let me back up to here. You can invite me back and I'll have more to say. On the building permit thing, like that looks like one. This definitely is an addition. I wouldn't want to live there. Something like that's more normal. Um, Accessory dwelling units are very popular. A lot of municipalities want more and more of them, I guess, tax base and that sort of thing. But they do need permits and so forth. So the building permit thing is a very litigious area. Sorry, let me go here. So on the AVID, some wording I'll have in the notes, and use it only if it's okay there, but just something that is mentioned is already California law does not require the agent to inspect the following, and one of the items, or several, public records or permits. One of the absolute worst things that we can do when we have the buyer who's concerned about building permits because of the condition of the home that they're buying is to get involved in it. It's even not a good idea if they say, well, we're at a hotel, we don't have a car, we know that you don't want to go to City Hall with us and hang around while we investigate this. Just drive us there and drop us off at 10:30 and come back at noon and we'll go to lunch. Bad idea. If you are involved, this is how litigious we are, not you and me, but the state. Just providing transportation to the city or county office where permits are kept puts you right in the middle of it. It just, I'll meet you at the restaurant or something like that. Just don't have anything to do with it. I know that doesn't sound very pleasant, but that's just kind of the way it is in California. And on the AVID, it says, I'm quoting, by statute, agent is not obligated to pull permits or inspect public records. Twice on the AVID, on the first page, say that agents should have nothing to do with the verification of building permits. So that's a big one. I like this wording when it may become an issue, and you kind of have that feeling buyers advised to check with not city of, not county of. There's lots of different names for communities. One that applies to every community is local municipality. Buyers are advised to check with local municipality regarding building permit information, and that works really well. Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. You can always invite me back because I have a lot more stuff. Oh, by the way, this is I'll do this real quick. I was involved. If you ever saw Father the Bride, this is the home where they did the exteriors. It's in Pasadena. It's supposed to be in somewhere else in the movie, but this is what it's like in real life. Whenever I'm in that area, I never stop. I don't want to bother anybody, but there's a crowd of people out in front of that house every single day of the year from about 6 o'clock in the morning until about 11 o'clock at night. And some of them pull out those stakes on the fence as a souvenir. Hard to believe. Used to be the Brady Bunch house. And by the way, without getting into this too heavy, the Brady Bunch show, I'm not old enough to know about it. Well, maybe I am. But anyway, the Brady Bunch show, that's the house they used, but it was only an outside. They never did a single minute of filming here. It was just a house in a neighborhood, and that they recently kind of did some stuff to it to make it look like the old one. Okay, let me get down here and first of all, thanks for the invite. Thanks to my sponsors, Choice Home Warranty and Legal Services. I will get some notes, and that's Karen with Choice. I'll get some notes to your office. I'll email them out today. And Amy, can I send them to you? And are you the one to get the information? You can spread it out?
Absolutely. Send it on
Okay.
over.
All right. Okay. I'll do that. So thank you very much for being here. If you want a part two to it with totally different information, feel free to invite me back again. Be more than happy to. So I'll end it there. Thank you for your attendance, and we'll get the notes off to you today as well. Goodbye,
Great.
everybody.
Thank you, Robert.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.